In 2022, Russia would launch its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, getting right to the outskirts of the capital city of Kyiv. However, in March and April of that same year, the Ukrainians completely removed them from the capital territory.
Наша. Пошли с автоматом, пошли на войну, Что ты за хуйня? Есть, подвод!
Spirits were up and morale was high. Ukraine had shocked the world by pushing back what, at the time, was thought to be the second best army in the world. The real shock would come soon after, when the horrors of Russian occupation showed their true face.
As Ukrainian forces have re-entered areas close to the capital, Kiev, after the Russians retreated, they have reported finding hundreds of bodies and mass graves in the town of Bucha.
As Russian forces retreat from the area north of Kiev, in their wake, scenes of utter destruction. Whole blocks of houses flattened, Ukrainian authorities saying they believe dead bodies are still lying underneath.
It was known then what Russia's true goal was: the death and destruction of the Ukrainian people. The Russians themselves said that they were on a cleansing operation in Bucha. Intercepted phone calls would show these crimes and how the Russian soldiers were bragging to their families back home. They talked about those that they massacred while stealing the phones of them to call back home. I've linked a lot of articles down below, as well as a couple videos that I highly recommend. In this video, I will not be looking at or relitigating the massacres of Bucha and Borodyanka. I do highly recommend the Associated Press's video on Bucha to get a better idea of the scale of this massacre. Helping to make it happen would be my fixer, Lena. She practically lived on the front lines as the Battle of Kyiv was going on. She's also incredibly insightful about this area and helped me out a lot. What was that feeling like, staying, knowing that you were right there on the front lines?
Well, you know, I'm a good survival actually, so I did not really care. My privilege is the fact that I still don't have like dependence, only my cat, and I had to care only about myself. And for me it was like I was ready to escape. Let's say it so. I wasn't like afraid. I was alert and kind of ready, but I wanted to do something, and I still want to do, and I still try to do something. That's why I'm staying, because I know if I fled, I could happily live wherever.
Right.
I very good adapt to new situations. I use it to live abroad, and for me it's not like a problem. I easily find new friends and everything. But I decided that was what I didn't expect from myself. I decided that I want to stay here. For all my life, especially before our revolution of dignity, I didn't like Ukraine. I'm one of the Ukrainians who I was always wanted to flee, because I didn't like this corrupted system and everything. I did not really believe in like better future. Only after our Maidan, I started to think better about my country, and I decided that I want to stay and see what's going to happen.
Yes.
And now when the war started, I completely kind of fell in love with my country. That's strange.
Borodyanka, a place often not spoken about, a relatively poor town in the northwest of Kyiv. Russian forces were halted here and decided to take that time to terrorize the town.
You can easily imagine people living there. There are still flowers there.
There are. Hi. And some people still live in the rest of the complex.
Yes, and if you go there, you'll be able to see that that house is much more ruined, but you can see that some, maybe they don't have where to live. So some people live in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're probably here, they have water or something, but there it's just like, as I said, it's a poor town actually, so...
There wouldn't be a lot of resources even devoted here then.
But when it started, you know, you asked this question about how it felt like when it started. For the first week or so, we tried to like make posts online, like appealing to our Russian friends, like do something, stop the war, go onto the streets, stop it. Then in a week or so, we just came to understanding that they don't care. If they are not pro-war, they will do nothing anyway. So no reason to waste time on them. Yes, that was one of the things, one of the phenomena of the war. We used to think that we are like kind of like brothers, the same. So we used to think so, and the war revealed how different we actually are. And even though, for example, my parents were Russian, they were from Russia, but I believe they were that generation of Russians that was kind of brought all this Lenin, Stalin politics. They just moved population, especially to Russify Ukraine and everything. But even my parents, they were already pro-Ukrainians. For example, my mom, she asked, she died, they both died unfortunately, but my mom was more pro-Ukrainian than me. She asked to be buried in her Ukrainian shirt, and that's what we did. And we spoke Russian. I'm actually originally from Dnipro, so it's a city in the east, and it's still like Russian-speaking city, but it's very anti-Russian now.
Of course,
because they are shelled, because they suffered a lot of the war. They are much closer to the front line. I haven't been there for years, but yes, they made us anti-Russian. We didn't care. And actually we are still like. Even before the war, people coming here, they asked me quite often, do you hate Russians? And my reply always was like, we just want them to, I'm sorry, fuck off. That's all, and we want to forget about them, and still we feel like this. But now, yeah, that's what I feel, but we cannot forgive them, their crimes too. I quite understand Ukrainians who want to, we need to punish at least those who did it.
yes.
Who killed people, who raped children. That all happened, unfortunately. And actually this is one of the places when it happened. Some of the worst crimes were committed here in Borodyanka. So I believe quite many people died in this building because you can still see this candle. There were flowers here.
With Lena having lived on these front lines, I wanted to ask her about these civilians that she had seen fleeing from the area.
Another thing that I witnessed too, staying in my village, when they started to evacuate people from Bucha, Mila, all this Borodyanka, all the evacuation went through my village, because my village was actually like on that side of the front line, the first place where it was already safe. And my like neighbors, again, all the village, we made like a special, put some tents, medicine, we prepared like hot food, drinks, because people, I was there, I filmed some of them and I cried there. Normally I don't post like stories when I cry, I'm not like that kind of a blogger. Sure. But I just could not keep it because they were so miserable. They were like taking old ladies unable to walk from these buses, and the buses were again with these holes, and people, there were people who stayed like in their basements without anything for 2 weeks or so, scared, and especially children. That was the scariest part. When you talk to a child who went through this, who just saw it, and it was like something crazy. I've never planned to see anything like this in my life.
Of course. Out of these 3 towns, I would spend the most in Irpin. More people died in Bucha, but Irpin faced the most amount of destruction.
It's just like my playground where I go all the time in normal life, where I go to buy wine.
Yeah.
And instead of buying wine, now we see all this.
Жираф догорает, блядь. Беттеры отошли на Бучу назад. И здание напротив горит.
Old men on bikes became a favorite form of target practice for the bored and bogged down Russians, eagerly shooting at whatever was in front of them.
Oh, hello.
Speak Russian, English, Poland,
Ukrainian.
no problem.
While walking around, a man with a crowbar approached us. His name is Anton. He saw an American with a camera walking around and wanted the world to see what his neighborhood was like now after occupation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
No, but to the roof.
Yes.
Do you think? Окей.
Don't worry.
А ви залишалися, коли це все було?
Да. Квартиры все открыты здесь.
Ну,
I say about house open to. Open to.
all apartments here are open.
Вот это. Я не знаю, как объяснить, как там.
Tank.
Танк.
This is what tank did here.
Oh.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you, my friend.
Первый авиаудар был здесь, где вы видите, где вы видите яму. Это был первый авиаудар. Били по местному населению и дальше били по военной части, потому что там военный госпиталь. Рядышком находится военная часть. Военный госпиталь у вас прямо, чуть выше. Военная часть и Гостомель получается вот рядышком. Поэтому эти районы самые больше пострадали. Вот вы видите гаражи. Видите выпаленную улицу Кирова. Стрит Кирова. Почему ее выпалили? Потому что с Бучи. Буча там, где вот вы видите озеро, там Буча. Там Буча и с Бучи били. Били с Бучи. Почему били с Бучи? Потому что Вышгород, где Иванковское направление, они подорвали мост. И они подошли с Бучи, пошли. Картина на ладони.
Тут погибли люди.
Много.
А тут в доме были люди, когда...
Да. Но некоторых убили, некоторые в плену, пацаны. Ну, по-разному. Но буряты думали, что они зашли уже в Киев. Они думали уже в Киев. Ирпень это Киев для них. Но наши не стали цацкаться в плане того, что бегать за ними. Эта колонна сформируется, мы подорвем. Афганцы под бензовозы гранаты. Как въебало. С автомата вышли, расстреляли, да и все. Да и все дела. Можем пройтись по крыше. Только осторожно, не упадите в яму.
Мгм.
Бо это будет цирк. Бо это будет нет. Здесь видите вот этот дом. Это тоже минометы и там. Ну вот это, где бетон горевший, черный, это фосфор.
Мгм.
Ебашили фосфором. Фосфор, если попадает на куртку, надо снимать. Не потушишь. Выгорает до костей. Ну, если бетон горит. Ну, такое, ямы поснимать. Миномет. Осколки разлетаются не слабо от него.
Все посечено.
Видите, тоже миномет. Балкон.
Мгм.
10 этаж. Вот этих два дома, вот этот и мой,
Мгм.
они останутся.
Мгм.
А вот эти все подсунутся.
Мгм.
Я 9 марта уезжал.
Ну это же было тут еще опасно. Как вы
Уже
выбирали?
ебашило так, что ну, мама не
А,
горюй.
А как же вы на машине?
Ножками?
Через вот под мостом там?
Не.
Через леса?
Через леса.
А,
Ну, русские зашли сюда.
мгм.
Они зашли. Они зашли, это 10-я линия называется, район СМУ. А почему СМУ? Потому что рядом завод «Прогресс».
Мгм.
Строительное монтажное управление.
Мгм.
Но по-другому перекладываются, случайно могут убить. Русских случайно поубивали.
He said something funny about...
Здесь два озера.
Мгм.
Вот это озеро, это добывали когда-то глину.
Мгм.
А вот это земснаряд.
Мгм.
Добывали песок когда-то. И видите, между ними дорога.
Мгм.
Глубина 1,5-3 метра.
Мгм.
1,5-3 километра, прошу
Мгм.
прощения,
Мгм.
здесь, в этих
Мгм.
озерах. Рыбы
Мгм.
до хренища.
Is he happy to be back home?
Вы рады вернуться домой?
Конечно.
А когда вы
Yes, of
вернулись?
course.
Через какое время после деоккупации?
3 months.
Yeah, okay.
Ага.
3 months. 3 months. Ну, у меня даже квартиру не открыли, не успели.
То есть они ходили, русня тут ходила? по квартирам?
Они открывали квартиры.
Ага.
Они
So Russians
строили,
were right here. They were checking all the apartments. His apartment stayed intact, luckily.
Идемте туда, пройдемте. Только не упадите в яму, я вас прошу.
Be careful.
Yes.
Накрывали с Бучей фосфором, видите, как гаражи погорели. Накрывали с Бучи и минометы, и фосфор, и грады. Сюда, они плюс-минус знали, где часть.
Мгм.
Часть, ну, как бы рядышком.
Мгм.
Поэтому этот район разъебало, ну, прошу прощения, разбило самое больше.
Мгм.
Идемте не через кабеля. Ну, можем и через кабеля, они все равно не под напряжением. Типа, все равно.
Спасибо.
Before we go back down, does he have anything he wants to say to whoever will see this?
Хотите какое-то сказать обращение к американской публике?
Thank you so much. For thanks. Как будут вертолеты и...
Helicopters.
Helicopters.
For
Thank you
planes.
so much. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Even with the scars of the not-so-distant past, people will still find a way to live their lives and do what they enjoy. This sports field was damaged during the attacks and occupation, but even now, a year later, the kids have started to play games on it again.
Soccer, but rugby.
Rugby, I'm told.
I don't even know anything about the game. It's very new here. So. I like this about my people. Once the territory was deoccupied, people started to restore, even though it was unclear yet if they come back or not. But we like to. Ukraine was always about enjoying life. Mm-hmm. We've never praised things like Russians do, like war, terrorism. No, we never cared. Ukrainians like to drink, eat, have fun, build houses, decorate them with flowers. That's my country.
Yes.
And dance, sing, whatever. And we try to do it even now.
I had asked Lena about speaking with more people from Irpin, and that happened to overlap with another project we were working on. Here is Alexander, a former resident of Irpin and a distiller.
Yes, it's in Irpin.
He knows
city.
Irpin, we've been there.
This is
I showed him.
my home is home my parents, and my one home is fire crash in last March after Russia military, and
he wanted to show me what the ruins of his home were, but more importantly, his original still, now broken. Alexander wanted to speak a bit, not about war, but of his craft, a clear passion that not even conflict can diminish.
Для мене дуже цікаво, щоб світ відкрив в майбутньому для себе український дистилят, як те, що теж не схоже. Україна не схожа ні на одну з країн в цьому світі. Я так сподіваюся, що вино зараз теж не схоже, коли його відкривають. Я думаю, що український дистилят, коли він буде доступний багатьом, то багато здивуються, що є такий продукт, і що українці виробляють дуже гарний дистилят. Но всі ми, люди, які виробляють дистилят, займаємося улюбленою справою своєю. Тобто всі роблять гарні напої.
I would be doing a disservice to not mention that the reconstruction efforts have been met and mired with controversy. The small-time corruption left over from the Soviet past still persists, and many investigations have taken place because of alleged kickbacks done by construction companies. Projects marked as complete, while perhaps maybe a tenth of the work is actually done. A bit on the sketchy side. However, this does not mean that nothing is being done about it. The Kyiv Independent has done a fantastic job about reporting of these issues, even to the point where they've had to issue an article speaking on why they talk about bad things happening. As for the corruption, I've always had my questions about that as well, so I will turn you to a friend of mine, Alina Verestuk, a former journalist and guide here in Kyiv.
Speaking about corruption, and of course it's a lot, but it would be really lovely if there were more stories about how Ukrainians at their own places are fighting this corruption. There are a lot of the protests at the moment going on in different cities about the budget of the city, how we should spend more on the war and on the real needs that we have right now, against a lot of the corruptions movement and so on. I would love things like that to be shown more, to show that Ukrainians are fighting not just on the battlefield, but at the same time we are here fighting against this corruption and doing our own little steps. I mean, so that in the end it doesn't look like, oh, there is this Ukraine, this very corrupt country, and we are giving them money. and where this money goes and things like that. There are a lot of stories like this. And believe me, a lot of Ukrainians, they also want to know where the money goes on. That's why we go on the protests and, sign petitions, spread the words about that. And I think this side of the story is really important, just to show this on the background.
Yeah. That it's also Ukrainians fighting for their future
Exactly.
in different ways.
Exactly, because our army is not just fighting the Russian army, we are just, fighting this past with a lot of corruption. We are fighting for the new life, for the diversity, for the democracy. That's the needs.
Bucha is a hard place for me to talk about. Many horrible things have happened here. And many I can't even show you. This is by far the town I've spent the least amount of time in, but it would have the biggest impact on me. Whilst mentioned before that Irpin had far more destruction, Bucha had many more people senselessly slaughtered by the Russians. Their admittance of a cleansing operation, the CCTV cameras all hooked up and uploading the tragedies as they occurred, the satellite images that we could observe, everything. This is one of the massacres that humanity possibly has the most amount of live reporting from, the most evidence in real time. Again, I highly recommend the Associated Press's video on this event, as it is a heart-wrenching piece, but a very, very necessary piece to understand about this war. This was a temporary monument put up in this time right before reconstruction. Since early 2023, a lot has changed. Reconstruction efforts have gone fully in swing. There have even been some foreigners to come in and help. A couple of those being some Belgian buddies of mine.
My name is Paul Lithick, and we're here in name of our non-profit organization, Trees of Hope, to basically bring hope back to Ukraine. Hope in the sense of that they're not alone and that trees carry us in a positive way on into the future. We're actually now at one of the first places where one of the first victims fell of the invasion in Bucha, and it's right behind me in this beautiful little park. And as in commemoration, really, we're planting 20 lime trees. Antilia is the Latin name for a lime tree. It's the tree of friendship in a way, and it is a very old tradition of planting this type of tree in an urban setting. They used to be planted in marketplaces and underneath the tilia people would congregate and come together, and even in certain situations there would be judgments would be passed, and it's a very old European tradition of tree.
What inspired you to come out and start this charity and do this with your time?
The devastation originally, of course there's the human suffering, which is of course that hits you like a ton of bricks, but for me, from my business, it was also the ecological damage, and it was something that struck me right away in terms of what I've seen today on our tour in the big park here in Bucha. There were quite a few trees damaged, and when you see it up live, it's very raw, and you know it's very permanent, because a tree, you cannot just sort of damage a tree a little bit. It immediately punctures its vacuum system, which allows in all sorts of pathogens and problems in the long term. So basically, whatever has been damaged here is, as time goes on, will be, in so many years' time, these trees will not survive this. So as a gesture of trying to keep a different message alive, but one of positivity, I thought it was important to come out and do what I could, and what we could together as Trees of Hope, is that we could bring in some literal hope and bring in some positive energy in the form of the only thing I know is trees, and that was for me it was an urgency, and also there's like a must involved. There you go.
And you're not here by yourself.
I'm being assisted by my eldest son Sebastian, and a regular help of mine who's called Mom, and they both volunteered to come along happily, and I think for them as well, this is a life-changing experience. It's amazing where the trees bring us. So it's more than just the biological system.
And where can people find out more about your charity, Trees of Hope?
They can either hop onto the website treesofhope, one word, .be. That's where you can find most of the information. We're also on Instagram under a very difficult Belgian word, boomverzorging.be, but you'll find your way if you go into the website treesofhope.be.
Excellent. Anything else you want to say to the camera to end us out?
I would like people to understand that life is going on in an incredible force here in Ukraine, that we've seen so much positivity of the people living their lives and getting back to more than normal at a speed of light. We've seen streets being restored in a year's time, which were battlefields a year ago, and there's this huge force which I found very attractive as well. I resonate with that tremendously in terms of, and it's a word I enjoy very much in Ukrainian, it's pishli, it means let's get on.
It's been a year now since I was there and recorded all of this. I hope my photos and videos show that short time window I was hoping to capture. A time of hope, a time that the world had Ukraine's back, possibly for the first time, when allies, and particularly the US, were helping fund their liberation efforts. How fast a year can change things. It is important to remember that as long as the Russian occupation continues, Ukrainians will daily have to suffer through horrific crimes against them. And who knows how many have died in occupation. We won't truly know that number until the Russians are removed. While around the capital, the area is able to be rebuilt, and people are starting to live normal lives again. It should be noted that out east, that just is not a possibility. Ukrainians out there are still worried about a second Russian push, about a second occupation that might be worse. Companies are willing to invest less money into these areas because of that, because of security concerns that the West could do something about. Resources are tight, jobs are few. And yet Ukrainians still persist. There is one way, one thing we could do to help the Ukrainians and stop this, and that is to arm Ukraine.